let's talk about the D. Oh, yes, the D. Oh, yes, it's time to talk about that defense because, listen, offense gets the glory, but defense wins the game, as our friend Dennis Rodman says.
Ooh.
In the spectacular movie, was it Double Team? Is that what that was with him and Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I think so.
I think it was Double Team. Yes. Horrendous movie, by the way, guys. Don't watch it. But anyway, there was a lot of talk about the defense there overall. They it starts off, they start off with another little montage, but this at least had a little background music where they're talking about the Giants' legacy, starting about how the Giants started the chant of defense, which is a New York Giant thing. All the other teams are just imitating.
We other teams should stop hating.
Exactly.
With real defense, exactly. Please stand up.
Yes.
Please
stand up. And then they
up.
start talking about the legendary defensive coordinators the Giants have had over the years. Tom Landry, Bill Belichick, two of the best coaches ever to be in the NFL and got their start with us. And then the talk came of Wink Martindale. And then they show a little montage again. I feel like we're going to say the word montage today more often than ever.
Don't forget about Belichick.
I did say Belichick. I said Tom Landry and Bill Belichick.
He didn't. I apologize.
So, but they showed a little montage about reporters talking about Wink Martindale leaving the team and eventually quitting and people not knowing where he's at exactly and stuff like that. They kind of glanced over it. I'm assuming they're going to go in chronological order. I'm assuming that. And if that's the case, missing the exit of Wink Martindale and how that went down from HBO's standpoint, not necessarily the Giants, but from HBO Max, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Just Max.
Well, it depends if you have it on TV or if you stream. If you have it on TV, it's HBO. If you have it on stream, you're Max.
It's Max brought to you by HBO because on my TV it still comes up as Max.
Yeah, but you bootleg. I know you're better than that. You're not paying for cable.
I'm not paying for cable.
Yeah, exactly. I called you out for your illegal actions live on TV. You are people on TV right now. Anyway, I think it's a big loss for Max, HBO, again, whatever the hell you want to call them, that they didn't show that part of it there too much. I would have loved to see something, whether it's Dable talking about it, people as they're discussing who they're going to interview for the thing. Like, hey, we don't want this because this is what happened here. I would have loved to see a little more of that. And again, assuming they're doing it in a chronological order, they're probably not going to show it, guys, which tells you the Giants just want to move on from the situation. I think obviously the fact that Jordan Raanan had his article there last week about all the coaches wanting to leave means this is still creeping up. It's still coming up as a big topic. They want that story dead. Why bring it up, bring it back to life, and then keep having to have Dable dealing with it? I think that's their mentality. Now, us as Giant fans, of course, we want to know what's going on. Of course you do. I want to hear him talk about it. Like, I want Dable to go, that guy MF'd me like you wouldn't believe. Screw him.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to see that. I didn't expect to see it, but I wanted to.
Yeah. This him a gun. Just want to do what he wanted to do. He wouldn't listen to anyone.
He's the head coach. He did this and this during the season. So, at this point, then he leaves because I fired his friend who we didn't think was doing a good job. So, just something huge.
That's not even that far fetched because that's a lot of what a lot of Giants fans just assume.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought they would talk about it at least a little bit. I didn't think they'd go crazy about it. I didn't think like Dable would sit there and go on a rant about it. But I thought they'd at least bring it up, not just show a 15-second montage of reporters talking about it, and then talk about the fact that they were going to go ahead and get a new defensive coordinator. Keep in mind, guys, they talked about what happened in the season. They talked about the huge disappointment the season was, the injuries. They had players that were talked to after the game at the last game last season there. It's not like they skipped over that time period. They just skipped over that portion of that time period.
Yeah, it was 15 minutes in when they said, not even 15 minutes, 10 minutes in when they're like, the Giants finished 6 wins last year. And Dable in the locker room. You could be on the high road and you could be on the low road pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, which I thought that speech was a little bit odd. Like, you win some, you lose some. Oh well, guys. And I know he didn't mean
Yeah.
it that way, but that's how it came out because they showed that little clip and that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I thought that was hugely disappointing. They went into a montage as well about Dexter Lawrence. Went ahead and showed some of his film, talked about how good a player he is at that point, which thought it came off a little weird. It's kind of like, why are you forcing this into this? Like, we're not about to talk about Dexter Lawrence. Why are you forcing this in the show? But they forced it into the show. They had a meeting with the personnel team. They were talking about defensive players they can get. Chris Jones was definitely talked about, and I thought it's interesting that they brought that up in the show because I don't think as Giant fans any of us thought there was a shot in hell they would get Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones wanted to stay in Kansas City where he's winning Super Bowl rings, but B, he's gonna want a lot of money, guys. He wanted to set the record for defensive tackle, defensive line contracts. That was his goal from the get-go. So to me, that's just a little crazy that they even talked about that as an option. He ended up with 5 years, $160 million, guys. That was his record-setting contract. It's actually 5 years, 158.75 to be exact. I had to look it up to verify real quick. But you're still talking 31 and change a year. Like, he got paid more than Brian Burns, and we all know how nervous that one made me.
Yeah.
But yes, the combo, they said Dexter Lawrence and Chris Jones up the middle would have been freaking amazing. Would have been absolutely amazing. But that's like a movie you make in Madden. Like, that's not a movie you make in real life. You're smiling because I'm right. I'm right.
Yeah.
No one goes,
how many times you said the franchise on easy with the cap? Yeah. That's ridiculous.
That's spent $57 million at the cap on defensive tackles.
Yeah.
Like, that's not to get you fired as a GM. I'm sorry, but that does. that's just a little too much there, guys. A little too much. They talked about Brian Burns as well. They mentioned that he was tagged and had to be traded for. Joe Shane then suggested that part that it would take a first-round pick and more to get him. Now, obviously, we got him. We got him for less than that. So I don't know if they put that clip in to make Joe Shane seem like a genius for getting him for less, or legit he thought that and got him for less. I ain't gonna knock him either way.
Yeah.
So
it's like he knew someone.
Yeah, he did. He did. We're gonna talk about that. They also talked about Christian Wilkins breaking up his friendship with Dexter Lawrence, who he played with over at Clemson. Shane said that Dexter actually texted him asking him what he thought of Wilkins because he wanted the team to be interested in Wilkins, basically, is what that was insinuating. Again, you don't put that much money into that position. I'm sorry. You have a top-tier talent. That's great. You got a guy that Dexter Lawrence that I think any team would basically give anything they could to get him, except for the Chiefs. It's the one exception they would probably keep with Chris Jones at that point. But, that's where you're at. I mean, of course, you got the stud already. You want to get a stud at other positions. So, but it was interesting because they talked a lot about defensive tackles, defensive line, and the whole reason they did that is because Joe Shane and Brian Dable had to go find a new defensive coordinator. Obviously, they went ahead and offered the job to Shane Bowen. They discussed that on the show. They're like, "Oh, we're going to offer Shane Bowen the job," which is kind of casual. It was kind of weird. Like, "Oh, okay, that'd be great. Let's do that." Like, as if they didn't have conversations and decide together to make that kind of move. Like, that's not a move you just widely make on your own, They really emphasize, especially Dable, to how great his defenses were against the rush. We know the Giants have had trouble stopping the running backs there for quite a few years now, it seems like, especially the last two. Wink, wink.
Yes. Oh, hey now.
Had to do it. But, yeah, so they basically then showed Shane welcoming Shane Bowen on board there, joining the team. They then showed him in the war room. Bowen talked with the projected screen blurred out. They actually did a good job of blurring out the screen, I got to say, because it looked like it was blurred out, but it wasn't like the obvious blur like cops. It wasn't like people's heads and cops. But it was definitely blurred where you couldn't read what they were saying there, which was interesting because the trailer, it was not. So they must have blurred it in post-production because I took a screenshot of that trailer. I still have it. You can still see everything on that whiteboard. So it was just talks about positions, by the way, guys. Nothing good. Or we would have broken that down as an episode. They're going to give us all kinds of lingo and all kinds of fun potentially.
Yeah.
So the Giants banned us. Remember talking to a Giants player for giving you guys too much information. Which, from what I heard, actually, the Giants Rush guys, they usually get some good interviews there. That's like their calling card, so to speak. Like they've gotten, current Giants. They've gotten guys like Kurt Warner before as well. Like they've gotten some good interviews. And they're saying the Giants are basically telling all the players not to talk to them already as it is. So, yeah, we could have got ourselves really shadow banned by the Giants there. but yeah, so they're in the war room. And he talks about his defense. He says his base defense is 3 defensive line, 2 edge, 2 linebackers, 4 DBs. Again, that's a typical 3-4 defense, so that's nothing crazy, nothing earth-shattering there. He talks about the importance of the linebacker position, though, in his defense, and that was not earth-shattering, but it's big news because we're starting to get an idea of what he's going to do. He called it the smartest position on the field. That was his exact wording. Smartest position. So I think it's pretty obvious that Bobby Okereke is about to be potentially the most important player on this team. Shane liked to have guys like Xavier McKinney get the green dot there, so to speak, and call the defense. It's a little easier to call from the back. You can see more things at that point there. But Bowen's going to do it with the linebacker. He's going to give the linebacker the ability to do what he's got to do at that point and see, which is the way typical defenses are run. So I'm kind of curious to see how it works. Dable then asked him where Isaiah Simmons lands in the scheme. We saw that in the trailer originally. Bowen said first, second down nickel, then playing money on third. So again, we're going to see Simmons more in coverage potentially than we have in the past. But what the nice thing is let's say it's a running play. Now you don't have a 180-pound slot nickel guy out there. You have a legit linebacker out there. So there's a benefit to it, which is part of why they were so good at stopping the run in Tennessee. They obviously clearly care about doing that. That's something they made a big thing to do. I'm not sure that's the biggest thing to focus on nowadays in the current NFL, but that's what they're doing. And considering how bad we've been at it, I'll take the guy who's focused on it because we got to fix it. Bowen also was then asked about having a penetrator on defense. He said he wants guys that attack. He then questions if Boogie Basham or Ryder Anderson can then play that potential penetrator role. Bowen then asked the question, if you take an inside guy who takes then asked the question, if you could, would you take an inside guy who takes the pressure off Dexter Lawrence or an outside guy? Then they cut the screen. They didn't even show the answers. I was like,
yeah.
Finally, we're going to get some inside knowledge on what these guys think. And just and cut.
I mean, it seems token, the Giants organization doesn't want to let up too much to other teams as well, and how they're going to think about their defense this year. Obviously.
Well, I get it. Like I said, as a Giant fan, I don't want to give an advantage to the team we're going to play. It's just, as a Giant fan, I want inside knowledge. It's almost like you'd have to show your official NFL New York Football Giants fan card to watch the show. Don't tell anybody.
Please.
I would love to watch the uncut version one day. But I mean, it's pretty obvious that Bowen was all about pass rush and attacking the quarterback. And Shane said, music to my ears, a pass rush, which was interesting because I took that as a little bit of a dig on Wink. Maybe I'm crazy. I took that as a little bit of a ding, a hit on Wink because Wink didn't have your typical pass rush. He just kind of blitzed from wherever, and it didn't always result in sacks. It resulted in making the quarterback uncomfortable, pressures, QB hits. It wouldn't say that the team was a sack machine team, though. And with considering the number of times we blitzed, that's a little crazy. But that's how Wink's defense was. So it was interesting that he put that. Like I said, I took that as a slight against Wink. I'm not saying he meant it that way, but that's how I took it.
I took a backhand. I wouldn't say it was a straight dig knife turn, but it was just a little all right, it's how we played for the past couple of years, and let's move on. Here we go. Yay, pass rush. So I mean, you're not wrong, but
I may be
We'll
right.
see.
I may be crazy.
Jay may be crazy.
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.